This is the first 15 minutes of an interview conducted by members of the Charleston Gazette Editorial Board with Bill Maloney, a Republican gubernatorial candidate in the West Virginia special election of 2011. Also present at the meeting were Don Miller, editorial page editor, who opened the meeting, Jim Haught, editor, Rob Byers, executive editor, Greg Moore, city editor, Vic Burkhammer, news editor, and Phil Kabler, Statehouse reporter.
Bill Maloney from Morgantown. I've never been in politics before. I've been in the business world. Started a company called North American Drillers back in 1984 to drill shafts for the burgeoning longwall industry that required more ventilation. And my partner and I worked for another company. In fact, my office is right across the street in the Union Building for about 3 years, 81 through 84. But we moved to Morgantown. That was where more gas was and more need for our services. And we started big. We called ourselves North American Drillers, even though it was two of us, and we had an old shop with a dirt floor and built our first rig out of the scrap pile. But we had an idea and worked hard, and were able to grow our business from a two-man startup to a company that had 150 people and worked all over the world drilling up to 18-foot diameter shafts. What I really learned was how hard it is to be in business in West Virginia. We were young and dumb. I was 25 years old when I started that business. But over the years, you just saw things burgeon out of control. Our workers' comp rates, our insurance rates, our bureaucracy costs, just on and on and on. It was hard to be in business, and it gets to be when you're spending too much time behind a desk, you're not doing your work, there's something wrong, and that's what started happening to us. And I just learned from that experience that we can do a lot better in West Virginia, and I know we can do better. But this past year, you asked me why I'm running. I was approached about 3 years ago by a group to convince me to run in 2012, and met with the folks in Washington and met with some of our congressional delegation and other people. And I remember the one speech over in Washington was, and my wife was with me, if your family's not 100% into this, you can't do this. And Sharon's over there going, no, we're not doing this. And our kids were the same way. You can't do this. But last summer, it was in August, and that Chilean incident happened with 33 guys being buried, and it's 4 months to drill a hole. And I just knew in my heart we could do better than that. And somehow or other, by the grace of God, I ended up in the middle of Plan B, and that really changed my life. I saw when you know you can do something, do it. And it's like a calling to be in Chile, and I feel the same way about our governor's race. I was giving a talk about Chile in January to the mining symposium, and a couple of people came up to me afterwards and said, "What are you thinking?" And I said, "About what?" And I didn't even know the Supreme Court had just made a ruling that we had to have this special election. And about 3 or 4 weeks later, I was down in the Capitol walking around, and it seemed like everybody was just hiding in their little corners. And I didn't know what was going on, but it was the week you had to file to register. I went home that night and told Sharon, I got to do this. And 2 days later, we were the last ones in, and God, we're on a mission again. And I feel really good about what we're doing. Our state just is crying out for leadership. There's too many things that I see that need to be fixed, and they're not that hard. We keep losing generations of kids, and we need to have more opportunities for them here, and we can be a vibrant, growing economy if we do things right. And to me, it's simple things like fixing our courts, fixing our regressive tax code, cleaning up some bureaucracies we have, and just moving our state forward. We got way too much to offer, and huge opportunities from Marcellus Shale and countless other things that we just need to capitalize on. I feel real good about where we're at, and a lot of great people behind me. And it's like Chile, a team just comes out of nowhere. You just believe in what you're doing, and it's amazing how things work. And we feel really good about everything. And glad to be here today, but thank you.
Thank you.
Hope I had a little bit of something in there for you.
Well, if you get elected, I know you'll push the business agenda pretty much, as you said, but there'll be a lot of other issues that, and I'm not sure how steeped you are and everything, but let me just toss out a couple of hypotheticals. Would you expand the state human rights law and hate crimes law to cover gays?
That's an issue frankly, it's one of those issues that I haven't concentrated my efforts on. I've been concentrating on job creation and other things, but we need to be civil to every one of our citizens. But I think we have enough laws in place to cover protecting our citizens right now.
If the legislature voted to restore the death penalty, would you sign it or veto it?
You know, my brother and I have a lot of discussions about this. He almost became a priest, and I'm a pro-life guy, and that's a hard issue. But if you believe in pro-life at birth, I don't see how you can be for the death penalty. I really don't. So I would be against the death penalty. And that's a hard issue. I've struggled with that one.
If the legislature would pass a pistol limit to one purchase a month, which is highly unlikely, but
consequence.
would you sign that or veto it?
I'm a Second Amendment rights guy. I'd veto that.
Well,
Okay, is that it for now?
yeah, you got some.
You got some ammunition there,
That's
right?
good stuff.
When you mentioned you talked to the people in Washington, who are you referring to?
Well, we've talked with Shelley quite a bit over the years, and the Republican Governors Association, the Republican National Committee. My brother's actually over in D.C. and has a lot of friends. We talked to a lot of those kind of just friends of friends. And but the speech that I was referring to was the RGA. They really talked me out of it 2.5 years ago. Look at them now. I don't know what they're doing, but they've got ads out, don't they? Yeah.
I noticed the League of Women Voters sent out a nice questionnaire, and that they have you recorded as you didn't respond to it. Is there a reason for that?
I tell you, we get so many questionnaires. I don't know.
So
I don't know the answer.
intentional?
No, we have a stack of them. In fact, I got one I'm supposed to respond to today from AARP. I haven't even looked at it yet. It might have been just in the stack. Sometimes we look at these questionnaires, and some of the questions are just so.
The league, though, is pretty
Yeah,
established.
I'll ask that question.
Okay. Well, if
I don't
it
know.
wasn't intentional, that's all I was after. Okay. So, what's your opinion of the federal healthcare law?
To me, there's so much uncertainty out there right now for businesses, and that just adds to the uncertainty. And I've made an effort to learn what's in that law, and the more I learn, the more I think we should be the next state to sue to repeal Obamacare.
So, if you were governor, then you would not carry out the requirements in the law, all the steps.
I would sue to repeal the law.
Okay. Can you tell me which parts of the law you find most
The
objectionable?
mandates,
Which
some of the
mandates?
hidden, the fact that you have to get insurance. I mean, that's some of the taxes that are coming down the pike that are really creating uncertainty in the business world are what are really burdensome to the economy right now. I think you need, as a businessman, you want certainty, and there's so much uncertainty right now based on this coming law that people just don't understand. And
What about people who can't get insurance? Because
I agree we should figure out a way for people to get insurance. I agree with that. Some of the things that weren't in that law, that being a business, healthcare was a big issue for a businessman. I mean, a lot of dollars, and I mean, you look at things differently. And I fought for some things, I don't know, 6 or 8 years ago, to make it easier to cross state lines with healthcare coverage for associations. Senator Byrd was online, he was helping us, and all of a sudden the last minute changed, and we didn't get that through. But things like that need to be included in this. That's not in there. Health savings accounts, I think, are a thing that everybody should have. And you look at experts in the healthcare industry, all agree that that's a thing that would make people more motivated to take care of themselves. Yet that's not in the law. There are things that we just need to be in there. And I would hope we could get the federal folks in D.C. to come up with some common sense things, because we need something to be done. And we met with a lot of folks in West Virginia. We had a healthcare forum with a lot of great minds in the room, and that was their biggest complaint. We need to be doing things common sense. The one good thing about what's happened is it's at the forefront of everybody's thought process. We need to do something about healthcare, and that is correct. We need to do something because it had gotten out of control.
Is there any law that requires businesses to provide health insurance
Right now,
for their workers?
I don't think there is.
Customary.
Right. Well, if you want to keep good workers, you better do it. It's a competitive thing more than anything. But I can tell you firsthand, it gets to be pretty high overhead on it. And you want to maintain good employees, you want to keep healthy employees, and you wonder how it got over to the private sector to begin with. So you look at other countries throughout the world, it's more a public thing. I'm not saying that's right. We had a business in Australia for a little while, and it just seemed a lot easier. The government just did it.
We grew out of World War II. It
Right.
was a way to keep workers and
Right.
compensate them when the wages were frozen.
You know Dave Rader, I mean, he gave me this whole history of the healthcare in our country.
So you mentioned that you worked on things to make it easier for people to cross state lines to obtain their actual health care, or to obtain their
We
health
worked on legislation, and Senator Byrd was one of the co-sponsors to start with, to make it easier for associations like the Contractors Association, who I was working with, to offer plans nationwide. Where you look at it now, every state has their own little laws that are very hard for insurance companies to meet all the regulations and cross state lines.
Worry about that. People who oppose it, they worry that
that never got, it got to a floor vote on the Senate and it died. And
So when you
the
say
details changed. I was involved with the Contractors Association,
That's
trying to,
what it was.
I was lobbying on behalf, I was a member and was over there, because that's a big issue for our company.
So are there any parts of the healthcare law that you liked? Federal healthcare law?
The fact that there were no pre-existing conditions, I think that's a good thing.
Okay.
You know, we've got a whole, I should have brought the packets in here from our forums, because we've had a lot of good ideas. I might have the one page of notes, but I don't have them all. Yeah, my wife, if she was here with me today, we need to promote wellness. And you look at our state, probably is one of the least healthy in the country. And if we can figure out a way to promote wellness in conjunction with healthcare insurance, we need to do it. I've talked to some private employees, and you know, they have different rates based on weight and what do they call body mass index, and if you're a smoker, and if you know this, that, and the other thing. It'd be nice to work that into PIA, some of those things. I think they already have some of those things. Isn't that true? Yeah, but maybe get some HSAs in PIA. Figure out a way to do that. We got to think outside the box and come up with alternative ways to work on healthcare. And coming from the business world, I always know that I don't have all the ideas, but a lot of people have a lot of good ideas, and we got to listen. And as Joe Manchin used to say, get everybody in the room, don't let them leave till you figure it out. Wasn't that his line? Yeah.
Well, here's another issue that you probably haven't even really researched, but in the last session of the legislature, there was a big battle over requiring prescriptions for all of those antihistamine type drugs that go into meth labs. And so the health reformers were trying to make them require prescriptions and stop the meth lab business. Have you thought about that?
We talked a lot about that, and my initial reaction was we don't need any more restrictions on our pharmacy folks. I was asking my local pharmacist what he thought, and he had this wad of paper of everybody that's gotten a prescription for, or just gotten Sudafed, and he had to keep track of it. There's a system right now, but it doesn't seem like it's automated enough and up to date enough. I know Larry Border, I became friendly with him before he passed away, and he's a pharmacist. He was, and I mean, he's adamant about having prescriptions for antihistamines, and his wife is the same way now. So to me, it's a hard thing, but we've got to get everybody together and figure out the best thing, because you don't want to overburden doctors or pharmacies. Because docs, I've talked to some folks I know, say, I don't want a guy coming in here to get a prescription for Sudafed when I'm treating a guy with a heart attack. I mean, I can't be burdened with those things. But there's got to be some middle ground to make it harder for people to take these pills and create meth. I didn't realize how bad a problem it is. It's a huge problem. But I think that's just a symptom of some of the problems we have in West Virginia. It's like a culture of despair that we just got to get over. And if we can diversify our economy and grow our economy and give our kids some opportunities, I think a lot of our drug problem will take care of itself. But we got to, just different areas of the state that I go, it's just a despair. I mean, they don't see any way out.
Do they smoke meth? What do you do? Swallow it?
Yeah, I don't know. I see these. I saw that movie, the boxer that had you remember that movie? Brother was a meth addict. The fighter, not the boxer, the fighter. That's the first time I've seen what they do. They put it in like a Coke bottle, and it's wild. I don't get it.
Another one. We're one of the few states that do not have any statewide smoking regulations in public places. We just leave it up to the county health boards. You got any thoughts on that?
I know one thing. I don't enjoy going to bars in Morgantown. Well, I can't stand the indoor smoking. I never have. But you don't have any smoking in Kanawha County, right?
Right.
Yeah. You know, California, it's statewide. New York City banned it. You know, personally, I like it. I did. You know, but you get to a point where I had somebody the other day say we need to make an issue out of these parents that take their kids and put them in a car and smoke. We need to outlaw that. But there's a certain line you draw that you can't go over. And to me, it's another hard question. You asked a lot of good questions.